icons with my angle. Okay, we're going live.
We're live. We're live now. So we're live now. Nobody's nobody's watching us yet.
Okay. I shared it in our Zionist groups.
Yeah, I shared it.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool. So so thank you, everybody. Oh, we have a viewer. There you go. See that?
Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome. This is a thing. I think we should do this like every week if we can.
For our viewer? For our viewer?
How do we know who the viewer is? Are we going to see the
three
viewer?
now?
Oh my gosh, welcome. Can they interact with us, Dylan? Can they ask us questions?
Yeah, they can.
Gosh.
So
fantastic.
So wherever you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube, submit a comment, and we can put it on. Here, somebody put a comment. Here is Alan Skorsky.
Hi, Alan.
Hello.
See that?
Oh my God.
Alan's a friend of mine on my page. I think so.
Is he? Which page is it, Daniela?
My page, Daniela Bloom.
Oh,
wow.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm from Alan. I'm from Great Neck, so that's near where I grew up, West Hempstead.
Yeah. So if you're watching, tell us where you're watching from. And Alan just says yes. so thank you. So this is the Being Israeli podcast. And I will say that this is the first Being Israeli podcast.
Oh, no.
What?
I thought the door opened.
No, I'll tell you. I can see it. So this is the first Being Israeli podcast that we're doing and that we're streaming live. And today we have Dana and Daniela, who are Israeli American parents who have kids in public school. We're going to talk about anti-Semitism, the challenge of anti-Semitism in our public schools. We have Rose Kemps watching from Century City. Welcome, Rose.
Hi, Rose.
Hi, Rose.
What's happening, Rose? Rose is a friend of mine. She updated her profile picture, and somebody said she looks like a Disney character. Anyway, so Dana.
Yes.
Daniela, do you want to introduce yourselves, talk about yourselves, and actually tell us about yourselves and tell us why anti-Semitism in education is important to you or is an issue for you. And we just lost Danielle. That's okay. She'll come back. So Dana, you start.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Hi, Dylan. So I am Dana, and I have two kids in LAUSD, two boys. And I have, my mother's Israeli. I identify as Israeli American. And I especially, obviously anti-Semitism has always been an issue. But especially in April, UTLA started holding ethnic studies seminars, which I happened to be on. It was very disturbing and horrifying. I'm part of a group called California Students United, and there were some other friends of mine who are on this Zoom, which was extremely anti-Semitic and anti-Israel. This is now, I'm talking about weeks before what happened in May with the Israel-Hamas conflict. So we were like, we have a serious situation here in UTLA. Cecily Meyer-Cruz, who is the president of UTLA, and these teachers were talking about the Wiesenthal Center and Israel and Jews as if we were the most terrible people and Israel was, a terrible country. And we were horrified. We were like, what is happening here? So, a couple of us were like, we need to do something about this. This is not okay, coming out of the Los Angeles Teachers Union. So we started drafting a letter. Then things kind of died down. But we were working on this letter. I think, Dylan, Naz Cohen, she was instrumental in drafting this letter. And then, of course, what happened in May with Israel and Hamas, and then UTLA deciding to get involved in Israeli politics and, telling the U.S. to fund Israel, we're like, wait, what's happening? So on a lot of different levels, this really hit home to me that my kids, our teachers union in the second largest school district of the United States, our teachers union is now deciding to get involved in politics. We were like, this is not okay. So our organization wrote an open letter to Cecily Meyer Cruz, and we felt we had to get involved. We contacted many Jewish organizations, including Stand With Us, ADL, Wiesenthal Center. ICANN was the only organization that seemed to care enough to take action. All the other organizations were like, yeah, okay, we'll see what happens. But we knew that this was a very disturbing trend happening here. So yeah, it really hits home. It really hits home. I feel like we were like sort of going into the 1930s. And Daniela, I remember Daniela and I were talking about a school bus driving around with a Palestinian flag on it, right, Daniela? We were like horrified.
Yep.
What was the I remember that I'll see if I can find a picture of it here in a second. Daniela, wasn't there some sort of terrible quote or something on the top of the bus?
I think it was about anti-Zionism is not anti-Judaism, and the Jude, the Jude, was extra large, so there was some subliminal connotation there from Nazi Germany. And it was a school bus. It was hired privately, but the fact that it was just driving around in the Jewish Valley was very concerning. It was a big wake-up call to many of us. Very jarring.
I'll see if I can find that and put it on the screen. So I do want to kind of so Dana, thank you for kind of setting us up with the conversation. I do want to kind of give a little bit of an introduction as to who I am as well, and what ICANN is, since you mentioned ICANN, and what we're doing here on this broadcast. So first of all, my name is Dylan Hosier, and I am the CEO at ICANN, the Israeli American Civic Action Network. We are an advocacy organization that gives a voice and empowers the Israeli American community in the United States to impact issues like education, combating anti-Semitism, and other issues that we can get into later on. But with this podcast, I think I really want to provide a platform for people like you, Dana and Daniela, and hopefully Amy will jump on with us here in a little bit, to talk about these issues openly, and just to kind of build an audience and to kind of start communicating with people, and just I think have a conversation, continue a conversation. That's super important. And Dana, you did mention our activism, and I appreciate your comments. It was phenomenal working with you and others on the UTLA issue. So thank you for being a cool partner. Daniela, did you want to kind of give a introduction about who you are and what you do and what you're doing and why you care about?
Sure, absolutely.
And while you talk to the audience, I'm going to try to find that. I'm going to see if I can find that photo.
Okay.
For us here. Yeah.
So my name is Daniela Bloom, and I am a psychotherapist and mom of 3 who has made my advocacy, my pro-Israel and pro-America advocacy, front and center. I think the same reasons our relationships are falling apart are the same reasons our country is falling apart. And how I got so involved with meeting Dana, meeting Dylan, was, if you mess with my kids and you mess with Israel, you have my full attention. Nothing has become more important and front and center. And we were in crisis mode in May. That is when we needed to rally. We needed to come together as Jews and as concerned citizens under the same premise that we will not tolerate misinformation on Israel in the school system that could literally form the opinions of the next generations, making it unsafe for Jewish and Israeli kids on campus. I learned a lot, my crash course into advocacy, but we had some huge success with the anti-Semitism resolution in the summer. And then again with taking on the teachers union with an incredible campaign with Dylan and ICANN's strategy that I really think was the game changer. And we're not stopping. We're not stopping. You know, California is not for the faint of heart. As soon as we navigate one tsunami wave, there seems to be another. And I'm glad to be connected with ICANN. I'm glad to be an outspoken, unapologetic voice for Israel and America, and why we are allies, and why we will always stand together.
So Daniela, can you see the? Thank you for being. That sounded. That was super nice, very nice. Can you see the screen? Can you see the?
Yes, the picture I saw was at the front of it because that's where the graffiti was drawn on. But yeah, I mean the side view was also ferocious.
Side view. This one bothers me because it says, "Well done, Israel. Hitler would be proud," which was a phrase that we heard. Throughout.
Yeah, like we couldn't believe that we were seeing that.
Yeah.
I think Daniela and I saw the front, and then some of our other mutual friends were also posting the pictures, and we were like, "This is driving around Los Angeles."
Yeah, yeah. I'll see if I can find the front of the bus. I don't think I can, but that's you know, we get the idea. That's pretty. And just to be clear, you know, when this happened, when this bus, I don't see any others, but when this bus, oh, you guys, hold on. There we go. When this bus was driving around, I think there's a lot of people concerned that this was an LAUSD bus promoting this content, and I think we were all really disturbed. We were all really disturbed with it.
Yes.
I know we reached out. Danielle, you and I reached out, I think, to LAUSD at the time, and they told us it was not theirs. It was some sort of other charter.
Yeah.
But which is good. And by the way, thank you to Nick Melvoin, who is always super responsive.
Yeah, I think he was the only one of the school board members who actually followed through, answered Dana's letter.
Well, so I have to say about Nick Melvoin, you know, our letter that we sent to Miss Cruz was, you know, CC'd to everyone, every elected official, meaning even Governor Newsom. It went to every single LAUSD school board member. It went to Mayor Garcetti. It went to all the LA city council members. It went, you know, basically to every elected official. What's upsetting is that not one, except Nick Melvoin, spoke out. And to be honest, we had to put pressure behind the scenes to Nick Melvoin. Okay, yes, he did speak out, but, you know, silence is complicit, right? If you're not speaking out against anti-Semitism, you are complicit in this. So why are you not speaking out? I mean, if it was another country, I'm sure you would be speaking out.
Or any other community, by the way.
Yeah, any other community. Yes, I agree. So why are you silent? Why are you okay with this?
Alan sends this comment: Legislature Care, the Squad, and the PLOPA movement in America have defined the narrative, and we were caught flat-footed. I think that's really the problem, is that we've had other people telling our stories. And by the way, for everybody watching and who may not know me, I'm not Israeli and I'm not even Jewish, but you know, I've kind of
I know, I love that about Dylan. When I first met Dylan, and I was like, Dylan, can you please tell me about how you came to this position? Dylan, I hope you don't mind that I'm saying this.
Okay, no.
It was he said, yeah. I'm like, so are you Israeli? Do you know? He's like, no, I'm not Jewish, and I don't, you know, and I'm not Israeli. And I'm like, what? It was so funny. I was like shocked.
It's really unbelievable how he chooses to put up with us and this, and he's dedicated his profession, and we are so lucky to have him.
Yeah,
thank you. You guys are being too nice. You're being too nice. Thank you so much. But no, I mean, look for me. I spent a lot of time working for the Israeli consulate here in Los Angeles, and I fell in love with the Israeli community. So it's really my honor and my pleasure to work with you guys. Um, what for me, I think that what I saw was, and again, as an outsider, right? I think as an insider and someone who's like immersed in the bubble, in the Jewish bubble, if you will, things may seem a certain way. But as an outsider, what I saw was nobody nobody was really stepping up, and the Israeli American community wasn't really stepping up and telling its own story, And and to me, when I see all the anti-Semitism on campus in our classrooms now, by the way, 10 years ago, it was, we were seeing it on college campuses, right? It was BDS on college campus. Now we're seeing it spread to high schools. And we knew it was coming, by the way. I mean, it wasn't a huge surprise. We knew that it was going to spread down to the high school level. But again, why is it okay? Why is it okay to talk to Israeli students on campus, or to treat Israeli students on campus a certain way, and to completely reduce the Israeli identity down to a political debate about Israel versus Palestine, which I hate even saying that, but that's what people say. When no other community would allow that to happen.
And Dylan, by the way, I mean, you're saying it's coming to high school, but I mean, eventually it will come to elementary school. I hate to say that.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Middle school and elementary school. We're already seeing it, by the way. We're already seeing it in bullying scenarios where Israeli kids are getting beaten up.
Oh my God.
Because of, you're hearing in other parts of the country, middle school, same thing. We actually had one of our members, I'm not going to name names, whose family experienced that. And this is part of the problem. And, the example I give, and I'm going to give an example that sounds partisan, and maybe it is partisan, but regardless of where you felt on Trump and his immigration plan, a lot of people object to this notion of the wall, right? The wall, in certain partisan circles. And some groups, most groups, campus administrators would never accept a Mexican American student being surrounded by other students yelling, "Build the wall, build the wall, build the wall," right?
Right.
Can we agree with that? I mean, yes. Daniela?
Yes.
So why is it okay then for our Israeli American students to be surrounded in non-political situations, non-political scenarios, and the students yelling "Free, free Palestine, free, free Palestine"? By the way, you don't even know where the Israeli student falls on this issue. They may agree, they may agree, or whatever. But it's like I don't understand why there's this double standard, and I don't understand why we as a community haven't done a better job of going on campus and saying I should be allowed to be Israeli and be a student on this campus at the same time, without being subjected to double standards. And the fact that it's now bleeding into our high schools and to other public school settings is incredibly disturbing. Thoughts?
It's all kinds of disturbing. And there's just so many things to fight today. And, they always say the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And unfortunately, we don't have those numbers all the time.
Yeah.
And, we're seeing that. Yeah.
But you know what, though? I actually think that's a benefit to a certain extent, because I know there's and by the way, it's easy and convenient for me to say this because I'm not Jewish. I don't necessarily feel the same sense of embattlement or being surrounded or whatever that the community might. I don't know. I'll never know truly, right, what it feels like to be Jewish in America or to be Israeli in America. I can empathize and sympathize, but I'll never truly know. But I do believe in the idea fundamentally in America that inequality in one of us, just one of us, is inequality in all of us. And so just because we don't have the numbers, that shouldn't be justification, and not that you are justifying it, but that shouldn't be a scenario or a case where administrators and faculty feel that it's okay to marginalize
No, it shouldn't.
students.
Absolutely, it shouldn't. But, we are in real times where, he who controls the media controls the narrative. And it's very un-American. And American value is that we don't tolerate racism, bigotry of any kind. It's all not okay.
I also have to say, you know, as you both know, my background's in PR and social impact. And as you know, I've been working with the media nonstop for the past 18 months. One of my biggest, you both know this, one of my biggest battles and one of the ones that I've personally taken the most, how do I say it, the most to heart as like a disappointment was that the media didn't cover the anti-Semitism. You know, the fact that they ignored it, you know, the UTLA.
Which part?
The UTLA anti-Semitism. I begged them, you know, I begged and begged. I said, please, why are you not calling these elected officials and asking for a comment? Why are you not asking them?
Yeah.
Why are you not saying you're complicit in the anti-Semitism? None.
Yeah.
It really hurt me. Okay, of course, I'm objective, but as a mother, as a Jew, as an Israeli, it really hurts. Because if this is BLM, they would be all over it. You know, I mean, so what? So it doesn't matter that there's anti-Semitism in LAUSC. It doesn't matter that there's anti-Semitism in the second largest teachers union. It matters to all of us. It matters to these students. It matters to the parents. It matters to the fact that Daniela and I don't feel 100% comfortable that our kids may not feel safe, you know, sending our kids to school. My kids are in elementary. Okay, they may not get beat up, but maybe they will eventually. It does matter. Why are the media so silent? And is it only Fox News that's going to cover this? Why won't the left cover it? It really bothers, I'm sorry, the crap out of me as a PR person. And I've given them every single angle to cover. You know what I mean? So this part really, still personally, really bothers me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I definitely agree with you. And, you know, from my standpoint, I think that the issue is so basic and so fundamental that it's not even a left versus right kind of issue. It's like, it's basic to humanity and basic to who we are as Americans. And it seems really unfortunate that, you know, what did get a lot of coverage was following this bus being, driven around the city and other protests that happened on the ground. Jews were literally beaten in the streets. Right. So that got a ton of coverage. And my concern is that, you know, we shouldn't tolerate an environment where our stories and our experiences are being only shared when it rises to the level of violence.
Right.
You know, and that, because we saw, we see as a country, the United States, you know, looking back at the Holocaust, we what happened, right? It's the same. It's almost the same kind of thing. People didn't know. People claimed they didn't know what was going on, whatever. But there were warning signs, and now we're all aware. We're aware of the endemic and insidious nature of anti-Semitism. And to allow it to bubble up, even, by the way, even to allow it to bubble up to the heights that it did this past spring is disturbing. It's incredibly disturbing.
Yeah.
And then, by the way, sorry, I'll just say this last thing. And then to allow that to then piggyback and to allow a political debate to act as kind of a Trojan horse to then attack Jews in public schools in a city like LA. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. Sorry, Dana, you were going to say something.
No, I mean, I just, you know, there's this meme going around now that has, it's tied to the vaccine sort of mandate or passport. I don't know if you saw it, but it says something like, this October, you know, reset your, you know, we're going back to 1942, and it's a photo of a Nazi soldier like checking some papers of like looks like a Jew, and then there's like a police officer looks like it's checking some sort of vaccine passport, 2021. So it's basically, you know, taking a Holocaust photo and superimposing it next to 2021. Oh, look, you have a vaccine passport. It was in bad taste, but the fact that they're using a Holocaust sort of, you know, photo and putting it next to this vaccine sort of thing, it's just gross. You know what I mean? And it's like, why are you using the Holocaust, you know, to use this vaccine sort of passport?
Well, I have a different opinion about that.
Okay, I don't even want to.
Can we not talk about
Yeah.
Okay.
But like, you know what I mean? But like in general though, there's always like, you know, there's always like these memes about the Holocaust and like
it's not so much about the Holocaust, it's before the Holocaust got formed, right? Because the Holocaust didn't happen overnight. You know, and I think that's really what they're referring to, is how things had led up to the Holocaust, vilifying Jews, the way they're vilifying the unvaccinated. That's where it's coming from. But I know that things can get lost in translation, and I know it's a very sensitive topic. So
okay, so like let's say
that's
though,
fine.
but like just in general though, like
Yeah.
anyway, like there are other photos where they, you know, they use anti-Semitic photos and like, you know, they're always, you know, they feel like they can just use anti-Semitic photos to make a point, you know, like forget that. You know what I'm saying though? But there's like people just use anti-Semitic photos and they think that's okay to use it. From anywhere, from before the COVID thing, you know, like. And it's, why do you think you can use anti-Semitic photos and think that's okay? You know,
So,
like, do you think that's like, you know, would you use that for a Black person? You know, like, it's like, I just feel like Jews are always, again, scapegoated, you know? It's just really disturbing. And then having to always, you know, the kids, like my kids, 9 and 11, still not totally understanding why the Jews are hated so much, you know?
yeah.
And having to have that just like really now at 9 and 11, trying to explain to them, you know, that conversation, you know, and explaining the Holocaust and, you know, that their family was killed in the Holocaust, that my mother's mother lost half her family in the Holocaust, and that my grandmother cried, you know, almost all the time. My mother would tell me these stories about how my grandmother would look at the paper in Israel, you know, looking for her relatives. And that still makes me cry, you know. And I know showing my children these relatives that we lost, you know, and having to explain that, you know, we lost generations, you know, and trying to explain to them what the Holocaust really is after all these years later, you know, and that the anti-Semitism is just as real now as it was then. You know, that is such a hard conversation, even for a 9 and 11-year-old to really grasp.
Can you? So I'm putting on the screen the this is what we saw on the streets of LA in May, this past May.
I think Ellen has a great recent comment. Dylan, do you want to read it?
Let's see. Alan says, because the media has been complicit in helping Democrats get into power. They aren't going to embarrass Pelosi or Schumer by calling them out. If you remember the rally in D.C. this past summer, a Biden representative landing large white supremacy and saying not PLO, PA inspired. I think that's important, is that, you know, and I would say, you guys know me. And for anybody who doesn't know me, I'm very middle of the road, and I like working with both Democrats and Republicans. I think that it's a mistake to. I mean, I definitely understand Alan's point. I will say that, and I understand where he's coming from. From my standpoint, we live in California. Democrats are going to get elected to office. We have to work with them. We have to figure out a way to work with them, and if that means that we need to educate them about the issues that we're talking about, that's why we're here, right? And, whether it works or not, that's a different question. I don't believe that trying to elect Republicans is the answer to anti-Semitism. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, but
no, yeah. I mean, listen, it's like I said, it's an American thing. It should be a bipartisan thing.
It's
it's
nonpartisan. It's not even nonpartisan.
Yeah, I'm sorry, nonpartisan. Yeah.
I mean, recognizing
It's-
anti-Semitism as a problem should be nonpartisan. Fighting it should be bipartisan for sure.
By the way, how do you see the comments? Where are they?
You go to the chat.
Well, here I can put it up.
No, but where's the chat?
It's on the bottom.
On the right hand side. You click the comments
depends if you're on your phone.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate that we're seeing a lot of silence.
But Alan brings it. But the fact that Alan is making the comment is meaningful, right?
A lot of us who would not identify ourselves as Republican, just as free thinkers, moderates is dead today, have been extremely disappointed with our Democratic leaders on recent anti-Semitism. And
yeah. But I will say this though too, is that the problems, I don't know if they're problems, but look, again, as a lobbyist and as somebody who advocates for important pro-Israel legislation, or advocates for pro-Israel legislation, there hasn't been, and there was a chance when Trump was in office and Republicans controlled the House, there was massive anti-BS, anti-boycott stuff they could have passed, and they didn't pass it. And there's reasons for it, and it's technical, but I think that, again, and Alan says he doesn't disagree, so I appreciate that. I think we need to work on both parties. Look, there was a Republican who voted against the Iron Dome, and yes, it was 8 Democrats and 1 Republican, but we still have some bipartisanship in opposition as well. Sorry, Danielle, I feel like I cut you off.
Yeah, no. Look at it. It's all valid points.
But one thing I wanted to explore with you guys is, as parents, can you just delve more into what it's like today from the standpoint of being both Israeli and Jewish? Looking at the screen now, knowing that this happened in our city, in Los Angeles, where we're all based, how does it make you feel to send your kids to school, and then really on top of that, to have that UTLA issue hang over your heads all summer? Can you just give some insight into what that was like for you as parents?
I mean, first of all, this is disgusting. Okay. The fact that, so this car is chasing.
It's after Shavuot, yeah.
Okay.
Had you not seen this before?
No, I did not. So this is
on Shavuot, yeah. Right, Daniela? Was it Shavuot?
I haven't seen this either, actually. I'm sure.
You didn't see this either?
No.
This is This is
Oh no, this is with the restaurant with the people eating in Westwood or West Hollywood.
No. Yes, it's the same night. Yeah, it's the same night as the sushi fumo issue.
Right. Okay, so I knew about the sushi thing, but
this happened blocks away. Same night, like an hour later. This happened like a few blocks away.
So this guy's chasing Jewish.
So what's happening is this night, and I think it was like May 18th or something. I don't remember exactly what day it was, but there was like an impromptu protest throughout the city, led by a group, and the group is called I think it's the Palestinian Youth Movement, PYM. Mm-hmm. And this TikTok, this TikTok is from one of the guys, as you can see his name and his Instagram. And so he actually, now what was interesting was this clip here made the rounds on the Jewish community WhatsApp first. So we all saw this footage on our, how we all have our WhatsApp groups.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we have our security WhatsApp groups. So this clip started making the security clip started making its way around first. Mm-hmm. Then I actually went, this video it's pinned onto my Twitter. So if you go to my Twitter, you can see it. I actually went and searched for some of the people who were protesting and found the clip of they themselves chasing the guy. And I strung the two clips together to make this full video.
Oh.
so you can see it from their perspective of chasing him, and then the security vantage point. See?
Yeah.
And then of course, when I published this and I gave it to LAPD, by the way, they took it down. So I'm glad I saved it.
Well, I had the pleasure of meeting that amazing Christian Lebanese man who was the friend of the Jews there.
Was he an Armenian guy, right?
I think it was Lebanese, Christian Lebanese.
I think it was Lebanese Armenian.
Yeah, so maybe he was half and half. Yeah,
our Armenian friends.
That was a beautiful story. He was the one who actually intervened.
So I say hi to our viewers, by the way. If you're watching and you have questions, comments, put them in the comment box on Facebook or YouTube, and we will put them on screen and address them. But I wanted to get back to you guys. I mean, again, you guys hadn't seen this, but watching this now and understanding this is LA. This is LA this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then real. And this kind of stuff impacts all of us just walking on the street. We're talking about anti-Semitism and education. If this is on our streets, and then we've got the pro BDS and anti-Israel stuff going through UTLA, can you just describe? I mean, I don't know if I'm asking too much of you guys, but can you just describe as a parent, like, how does it feel to send your kids to school?
First of all, I have chills watching this because this is really horrifying. I mean, can you imagine? I can't imagine being, that person being chased. This looks like it could have been in Israel at this point, right? It's like Palestinian chasing an Israeli. The fact that this is in Los Angeles is horrifying. The fact that this could be one of us walking with our children in the street coming from dinner is really disturbing.
I think it's La Brea, by the way. I think it's La Brea.
Yeah. So the fact that that this is coming top down from our teachers union, I mean, I think that we all are familiar with the name. Well, we all know Cecily Meyer-Cruz is the president of UTLA, and that there's a couple of teachers in UTLA, Sunny Lloyd and Maya Suzuki Daniels. For our viewers who are listening, obviously those names will not sound familiar to them, but these teachers in Los Angeles are given free rein to be anti-Semitic and to teach anti-Semitic subjects and statements to their students. It's horrifying. And they're posting all kinds of things on social media, anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, and no one's stopping them, except for, people like us, some of the teachers that we're working with, who I'm not going to say their names, so that we're protecting these teachers, who have, bravely stepped out to try and to do something about it. But this is 2021 in Los Angeles, and our teachers union is encouraging teachers to teach our children this, and it's coming into our school district is very disturbing. And I was just looking at comments on Facebook from some of the parents who are telling us to stop stop the complaining about the BDS, stop the complaining about UTLA, and the fighting that is going on now between the comments between us, the parents who are defending Israel, defending Judaism, defending, all of this, and the parents who are saying, enough, stop. You got UTLA to vote down the BDS and all this. What more do you want? And I think that is really scary. I mean, no, we're not going to stop. This has to be addressed. I mean, why do you want us to stop? Why do you want us to stop educating UTLA? They need to learn that this is not okay. So I don't know if you want to add to that.
I mean, that's why I got involved in the first place. At the time, my kids were going to be going back to LAUSD. I mean, them not being in school for the whole year is a whole other conversation. That's where Dan and I actually met, was in Open the Schools, right? So it was not enough that our kids were not in school. Now we have to deal with this new blatant anti-Semitism in our face that no one is really taking on. Yeah, it's really frustrating. I think that's been the plight of the Jewish person forever, though. Like, even on campus, Jews just like to, keep their heads down, go to class, do what they have to do. They're focused on the bigger goal, getting an education, becoming assets to society. But in the meantime, not paying attention to the signs, not standing up, it can be very, very dangerous. One of my favorite quotes that Dennis Prager says often is peace through strength, war through weakness. And it is not strong to just be complicit. We do need to stand up and be taken seriously. And we've had great success as a result for doing just that. And it's hard when our own fellow Jews don't see it the way we see it.
So, I mean, I would say that if you're describing it as frustrating, that's pretty strong. I mean, that's pretty strong-willed, I would say, because I mean, for me, if I don't have kids, and so I can't even imagine what it would be like to be a parent in this, let alone a Jewish parent, but to be a parent in this environment. I would be afraid to send my kids to school, I think.
Well, I took them out. I mean,
is that, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you took them out. I mean, that was your answer.
They're in a private school where there is no politics allowed. It's a safe environment. Its classes are small. I have relationships with the teachers and the principal. And I think, a lot of people have followed suit, especially in the conservative Jewish community. A lot of them have done the same.
Not the liberal Jewish community.
I mean, Dana, that's more for you to answer, but not that what I've seen.
Okay. Again, I mean, I don't think it's liberal or conservative. I think it's just like dangerous and not dangerous. I mean, this is setting up, but this is a dangerous environment for students. Whether you're, because I'm pretty sure.
I was just reading a comment. So sorry. What was your question?
Daniela made a comment how a lot of conservative Jewish parents are pulling their kids out. And I just want to know if there's a distinction between conservative and liberal, whether that matters. Because to me, this guy getting chased, for example, on this camera, the guy who's chasing him didn't stop him to ask him what his politics were.
I don't think we need to put labels on it. I think, look, labels don't do anything, right? I mean, this is not the point. The point is that we're Jewish, we're Israeli. This is not okay. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, if you're a Republican, if you don't identify as either. No, there should not be a label on this. This is not okay. Not okay.
Ruth gives us a comment here. Let's not forget that not all our teachers are educated enough. After all, they were raised in the system. I think that's a key point, by the way.
Listen, I mean, I agree with that. I actually, being 18 months into this, and Danielle, I think you agree, like, we are horrified about just education in general. I mean, forget about anti-Semitism and anti-Israel. I'm also working on education reform at this point. I mean, this pandemic has opened up just what's wrong with education in general. I mean, there's a lot of work to do just with education, especially with public education, which is now what I'm moving more to, which is what I was working on before. And then, I got put onto this because, like I said, I'm Jewish and Israeli. But this is, this is true. There's a lot of teachers here who actually, I don't even know if they really want to be teachers. I don't know if they really 100% really know what they're teaching. They've made comments, they're telling parents that they want their babysitters back, right, Daniela? Like, I mean, remember those comments? Like, we were like, what? No, we want our teachers to teach our kids. So, I mean, I don't know what half of these teachers, even if they know what they're talking about, they do need to be educated. And so
sorry, go ahead.
And so, I mean, I know that there's groups that are trying to teach these teachers more about Israel and all that. And now, they don't, there's comments that they don't want them teaching about Israel and all that. They think that we shouldn't do that. So I don't know. I don't know what to say. Because we've seen comments on Facebook that we are now trying to push our own agenda, that we're
which is what exactly?
That we're trying to promote the Israeli Jewish agenda,
God forbid. Hey, we have Amy Lesserman.
Oh, yay!
Yay.
Thank God, because I think it's important to have a teacher's perspective. Amy, are you ready to come in, Amy? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready to come in. I can see you. Can you hear me? And she dropped out. Hopefully she'll be back. Here, let me send her a quick message. Here's what Ruth says. It's not about Israel. It's about a world knowledge history. I think Ruth is right. And again, I don't want to besmirch all teachers, right? We can't paint all teachers with one brush, by any means. And I think, by the way, through the UTLA experience, I'll tell you what I was surprised with, by the way, through the UTLA experience. I was surprised at the number of teachers who were with us, actually. First of all, the vote was phenomenal, right? It was a great vote. But I was really surprised at how many teachers were there that were like strongly with us and who agree with our perspective. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think that's encouraging. And like, look, I love teachers. It's not about, I think teachers are amazing. But, it's also upsetting when you see some teachers who are bad apples, right? And I think Amy will agree when she comes on, the teachers like Sonny, who he needs to face some consequences for what he's teaching. Yeah. Because if he's teaching that, and he's teaching high school, so those kids are, they're almost adults. That's scary.
Yeah. And then Ruth just says, for sure. Here we got Amy. Amy Lesserman.
Hello.
Are you with us? Hello.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Amy.
How's it going?
Hi. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see
I hear you.
There we go. So we're, by the way, welcome, by the way. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Did you watch on the stream at all while we were talking?
I am ashamed to say it was called for 8, correct? Am I late?
It was called for 7. It was called for 7. You missed the bell. Is that what we say in school nowadays? You missed the bell? I think we said 7 or 8, and it's our first week back, so we'll give you a pass.
Oh, I thought it was daylight savings.
Exactly. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
Amy, we were teaching your class for you.
Thank you.
We were teaching a class for you. It was, and I think that it's great that you're here because we're talking about teachers. And so first of all, Amy, had you seen this this video before? Have you seen this?
No. Can you?
Yeah.
I'm reading the. Oh, they're chasing after a Jew.
Yeah. So, have you seen this footage? Did you see the security footage ever? Had you seen that before? No. Okay. So, this is May. I think it's May 18th, May 19th, after the conflict in Israel. And this was when this is the same night that the guys were attacked at Sushi Fumo, I think it's called, on La Cienega. So this is actually the same night, not like maybe an hour after, a few blocks away. I think the Sushi Fumo is on La Cienega. This is on La Brea in LA. And just to give some background, the security footage that you're about to see that's going to come up, this made its way through all, we all have WhatsApp groups and talking about Jewish security and stuff. And so this footage here made its way through our WhatsApp groups. And then I actually searched some of these. This is all by the Palestinian Youth Movement, by the way, which is this group. I think it's kind of violent. I don't think it's out of the realm of reasonableness to say it's violent, but so they actually filmed themselves chasing this guy. So I found this footage and copied it and saved it, and I strung it together so you get the full footage. You get their point of view, and then you get the security camera point of view. And so I put this up because we were talking about this event, and this event was on the news, by the way. It was on every channel in LA. And the boys being attacked were on every channel in LA. And so given this environment and given the fact that UTLA still went forward with pushing that motion in this environment, I was asking Dana and Daniela what it was like to be parents to send your kids to school in this environment with this on the streets and the UTLA thing hanging over our heads all summer. And so I wanted to ask you as a teacher, and I should introduce you. This is Amy Lesserman, who's a teacher at LAUSD. Thank you so much for joining us. And I wanted to see from your perspective, what's it like for you as a Jewish teacher in this environment and having these threats?
First of all, I'm watching this footage and it's fairly terrifying. The young men being
it's Shavuot. Yeah, it's from Shavuot.
It was Shavuot. The young man being chased could very easily have been my son.
Yeah.
And my son walks through the street of Los Angeles, and my son probably would have been oblivious to the violence going on because he is not part of WhatsApp groups and he doesn't watch the news and he sits in yeshiva and learns all day long. So he would have been oblivious.
And don't forget, this is Shavuot. So everybody had their stuff off for two days beforehand. So people were just coming out of Shavuot and this guy is walking from services.
So it's just a Jew minding his own business. I don't know. I can't think of a reason that would make it reasonable to be chasing a man down the street.
Yeah.
And I really find it rather astonishing and heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Part of what catches my attention is that I'm sorry, I'm sure that having dead time on
no.
Not great, but I guess this is my reaction to it. As a teacher, I can tell you that I am astonished as somebody whose job it is to protect and act in loco parentis to young people. It's astonishing to me that educators would be proponents of violence. And I will add that I was in a meeting Thursday night where there were adults who were cheering on adult members of my union who were cheering on young people who had violated people's privacy, who are members of city council or who are members of the board of education, because the young people hadn't liked what the adults were saying, and they were storming people's houses and pounding on doors and taunting them to come out of their homes, and being encouraged and cheered by the leadership of United Teachers Los Angeles. And I am shocked by this behavior, because everything about being a teacher has to do with encouraging people to show responsible behavior, encouraging people to take accountability. Likewise, the people who are being told that they have to take accountability for incitement to violence will all of a sudden make up rash, outlandish excuses for this behavior. And so it hurts my heart, and it terrifies my soul to think that there are adults who are have sworn to defend and uphold the Constitution, who have to take countless trainings every year about safety and first aid and violence prevention and suicide prevention, should take a role in promoting it is rather shocking.
Why we live in an era? Sorry about my friend here in the back. We live in an era of social justice. Why is there a Jewish exception to social justice? Why do we think there's a Jewish exception to social justice in this era?
I would, if you're asking me as a teacher, I would say because social justice is a matter of performative justice, and really in people's minds, these are the two identical things. They are performing the way they would act in a play, or putting on manners for show because they're looking for affirmation from other people, rather than engaging in actual, thoughtful, planned acts of violence, planned acts of justice. I'm sorry, I need to stop watching the video because it's distracting me.
Let me take it down. We've seen it enough. There we go. All right.
I think that it has to do with T-shirt justice and putting up a colored square on their social media justice. That it's a matter of feeling that they've done enough by looking good, and that's it for them. Sorry,
Dana. What do you think about that? The Jewish exception to social justice. Is that an accurate phrase, you think? I think it might be. It seems to be. Dana?
Wait, what do you mean? Is Jewish?
Why we live in an era of social justice.
Yeah.
Right? And Black Lives Matter and there's immigrant rights and I believe in all of those things. But why is there an exception when it comes to Jews? Why can't Jews have the same equality? And then set aside Jews for a second. Israelis even more so, right? Amy, before you came, we were discussing about how the Israeli identity, especially on campuses, and now we're seeing it move from college campuses to public school, high school, and lower even. That it's, we talk about how it's not safe to drive while being Black. Well, I think sometimes nowadays in this era, it's not safe to be in school or to study while being Israeli,
or walk down the street with a kippah, or big Jewish star.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do believe that Jews should have the same rights as,
sure,
our brown and Black communities, right? I feel that, again, as soon as something bad happens, right, that we're always blamed. I don't know. I don't understand it. As soon as the conflict happened in May, it was like, wow, everyone just got on board. Like, I'm like, do you even understand what's happening?
Without thinking.
Without thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, did you care about the Palestinians like yesterday?
And by the way, I care about Palestinians just as much as I care about Israelis, by the way.
100%.
We all do, all of us here. We're
I think
anti-Palestinian.
100%. Yeah. I think there has to be a solution.
It just doesn't seem as reciprocated.
Yeah. I mean, I want peace. I don't want to see this fighting, for another 60 years. But these people don't even understand. And then, they just decided it's convenient for them to be like, yeah, we care about Palestinians. And, all these groups are all of a sudden, waving the flag, and they don't even know what's going on. So, I mean, it's like, that's convenient for you now to pick up this cause, pick up this mantle. You don't even know what's happening. You don't understand the history. Please get educated before you start, picking up these causes. I mean, I'm happy for you if you want to get involved and understand the issue. But, you know, you don't just start marching. I mean, look at like Bella Hadid and all these idiots, you know, who are walking around and they don't even understand, you know, like Noah Tishby's like, you know, I went to an event and she's like, she said that she's wearing an Israeli necklace. She's wearing like the state of Israel on her neck, but she's like saying, you know, Palestine. So, I mean, these influencers don't even understand what they're talking about. So yeah, I mean, why is it okay for our group to not have the same justice as all these other groups? I don't understand that. I would like someone to explain that to me.
I'm gonna have to get off in a few minutes. It is getting to be my kid's bedtime, but what I wanted to say with that too is, you know, I think, you know, I do think we have a stronger voice if we were more united in the Jewish community, and so many cultural Jews I speak to, you know, their primary pain points, you know, they're front and center with things like climate change and systemic racism, and they're just so disconnected with Israel and its politics, and they identify with the Palestinian as the underdog, and they don't take the time to know basic information of Israel as a free state where 30% of its country is actually Arab Israeli. Arabs sit in the parliament, they're in the army, they're amazing contributed citizens to society. You know, Israel is all about gay rights and women's rights, and basic, you know, some Jews don't even have this basic knowledge. They just you know, they just side with this Palestinian plight of look at Israel, big, powerful, strong Israel, and tiny, tiny Gaza, and don't bother to get educated themselves, because we've seen before that, you know, the uneducated Jew can do far more damage than a typical Arab enemy.
Well,
yeah.
Sorry, what I would say too, it's not even that's not even the Palestinian narrative, right? That's the Hamas narrative in Gaza,
right?
And the Ramallah kleptocracy, that they're the ones that push that narrative. You know,
and unfortunately it works, and it's really it's very catchy and sexy and soundbitey and you know, but if you go to a Palestinian rally, you know, you hear from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of you know, we want all of it, not, you know, but you go to an Israeli rally, it's all about peace, hope, let's coexist. You know, we want for the Palestinians too to be self-actualizing. It's just a completely different energy, and a lot of that is missed. It's even on Jews, it's missed.
I mean, so it's also interesting. It's also interesting, you know, all these women's rights groups, you know, like where are they about the Taliban, you know, like, and then yet if you went into Gaza, you know, you wouldn't be allowed to walk around. You know, women don't have the same rights. You know, if you're a lesbian or if you're transgender, you'd be killed, or you'd be imprisoned. You cannot walk around.
Bill Maher said, Bill Maher said Bella Hadid would run straight to Tel Aviv. She wouldn't last one day in Gaza, because you're not even allowed to be unaccompanied as a single woman in Gaza without an escort. You know, so that it's just, that's, you know, if we want to talk about real, you know, liberal rights inclusion, Israel would be the natural no-brainer to support. So it just seems so crazy how people get it so wrong today. But anyway, I want to say good night, Laila Tov. Dylan, the work you're doing is amazing. Dana and Amy, together. I am so grateful that we are all allies and aligned, and we're all contributing in the skill set that we know we have. And there's never a dull moment in California or Los Angeles with where we are needed.
Thanks, Daniela.
It's so nice to see here.
She didn't have her background set up. She had to do a little thing.
Yeah, I know. I'm on the phone. I'm trying to cover my.
Good night, guys.
Thanks, Danielle. We'll see you next week. All right. So guys, I want to do this. Well, one thing I want to say, by the way, on Danielle's point that I think is interesting, and I won't keep us too much longer, I guess, but it's interesting how the average Palestinian in the West Bank, or even Gaza, maybe is a different scenario, I'm not sure, but in the West Bank, doesn't get to speak for themselves. And when they do speak for themselves, they have to worry about the consequences because I've been, even throughout the pandemic, in Zoom meetings and things, we've had Zoom diplomacy, I guess, and average Palestinians who say, "Listen, I want to work with my Israeli neighbor. We have to put roofs over our head and food on the table. This boycott makes no sense. It hurts us more than it hurts anyone else. So they don't support the boycott movement. And I think it's interesting how very comfortable activists in America speak for Palestinians there and impose their worldview on them.
If I could
yeah.
back on that, because it has a lot to do with what's happening in education and what's happening in the unions. Our union is all about talking about the evils of colonialism and white saviorism. And yet there were no Palestinian voices in any of the recent UTLA trainings having to do with Palestinian causes. Not even one, one voice, and not at either training. And yet they feel entitled to speak on other people's behalves, and it's rather shocking. And it shows this is not an intellectual movement, and not even really a heartfelt movement. It's rather a movement of people feeling good about themselves, of protecting their own interests and their own sense of identity and security. And it doesn't really have anything to do with anybody who's even Arab. I have not seen a single individual of Arab identity or even Muslim identity at any of these meetings. It's all people with other identities saying that they want to speak on the behalf of the voiceless, and yet usurping that voice and keeping people from having a voice in their own cause, of really essentially robbing them of their own agency by using T-shirt activism and colored square activism.
Is that what you were saying, Amy, about so I was trying to understand what you were saying in our group chat. So you're saying, like, is that with Sunny Lloyd? Is that like teachers that are?
There was not even. Yes. Sunny Lloyd is not for, you know. I don't really know him. I don't want to slander somebody, but I will say he doesn't give an indication of being knowledgeable or well read.
He just decides that he wants to talk about Palestinian.
Yes, what I do hear him saying, what I do read him having written, is that he likes to see himself as a certain kind of person. He wants to see himself as an activist. He wants to be that teacher. You know, he's an aspirational. It's aspirational teaching, as he wants to be the Robin Williams standing on the desk in a movie, getting the students to read poetry and take on causes without actually being very knowledgeable. I know that Maya Suzuki, and I am saying this because I am essentially paraphrasing what she said publicly in many venues, which is that the day before she had never heard of the cause of anything having to do with the Middle East. She hadn't read anything about the politics of the era, but it said justice on the cover and solidarity. And so she said to herself, that sounds like a good idea. And so she promoted it. So these are people who I think, some piece of their heart is some little bit of their soul is trying to cleave to the right thing, but not really thinking through what that means, because they aren't knowledgeable about it. And so the next best, so wearing a T-shirt and putting your name on a motion is the next best thing to being there, I guess.
Right. And then, so as a parent, Dylan and Amy, that is dangerous and disturbing. And the fact that the union is encouraging this kind of thing,
horrifying,
is very disturbing, because it's trickling down to these kids, especially the high school kids who are, going to go to college or not college, wherever they're going. But we've seen some of these students that are students of Sunny and Maya on social media kind of spouting what these teachers are saying. And they believe this stuff. They're getting indoctrinated.
We're getting indoctrinated, but I'm gonna tell you something that I think is reason for optimism, which is that students do come to realize that they've been manipulated, and the crash afterwards, the emotional crash of having been manipulated by somebody for their own cause. When you're a student of, I won't say when you are a student of Sunny Lloyd or Maya Suzuki Daniels, maybe none of this is really happening the way we think it does. But I think that the emotional crash of realizing you've been manipulated is a huge blow for a student. And I think that that's part of the emotional harm of the teacher's point of view being the lesson plan, because it's not in the state of California. And there are countless laws that make it clear that a teacher's perspective on an issue is not necessarily relevant to what's being taught. I can tell you that I'm teaching a very old-fashioned book right now by William Saroyan. I'm teaching it to 11th graders that I've known for some time. And he was a very famous American-born of Armenian family man. And he writes these very beautiful, simply written, but very profound stories about the life of immigrant origin families. And I often have to defer to my Armenian students, because I'll say, I think that when the author is mentioning, and when he's mentioning in the Human Odyssey, I think that when he talks about an apricot tree, that it might convey some other symbolism, and I'm not sure. And then I've got 6 Armenian students saying, actually, the orange in the Armenian flag is actually supposed to be the color of apricots, and apricots are a very symbolic fruit in Armenian life. And I really have to rely on them. And when we aren't listening to our students and we're teaching our own agenda, then it's not authentic learning. It's not morally truthful. And when we have so much ego that we can't back off and say, I'm not sure, then I think it's very harmful to students. I think it's unconscionable that somebody would not teach subjects like these, especially history teachers should be using primary source material and saying to the students, let's look at this image and see what there is there, and find out how we can draw some authentic conclusions from that.
Right.
Or let's look at a translation of some letters and see what they say. Or let's look at the Balfour Declaration and see what it says. That is authentic learning, especially in social studies.
Right.
So I think
that's great.
That's
great that you do that.
I think that they're really setting up their students for a big fall. I think anybody who teaches an inauthentic lesson is really causing their students profound emotional trauma, and it's coming for those kids.
Amy, I want to compliment you for doing that, by the way. I think that's fantastic.
The thing is, I think that is actually the expectation of how social science is supposed to be taught. I mean, it has been taught to social science teachers to teach that way.
Well, I mean, I think since I've met you, you are an inspiring teacher, and
Yes.
Are dedicated to your craft. It is a craft. How frustrated I've been. I've voiced my opinions to you, and I'm not shy about it. I'm very outspoken. so it has been definitely an honor to work with both you, Dylan, and Amy on all of this and the journey that we have been on and continue to be on. And I know that we still have more to do. But Amy, yeah, no, I mean, I wish, I wish I could take a class. You were my teacher.
I think I have some students who would be glad to make that switch with you. The thing is, I want to know, Dana, because we talk all the time, this has all been about, I regret that it's all been about teachers and unions and boards of education and what the adults are doing. But thinking about your own kids, I mean, if they came home and said to you, Mom, something kind of disturbing happened in class today. The thing is, would we even know as parents who it is that we talk to? I think that that's a real issue. I think it's very confusing for parents.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it has been very disappointing. And I think you've heard this maybe from some of my co-parents in the activist groups, that more teachers have not stood up. I mean, I'm not talking about you, but the silence that more teachers have not stood up when all this has been going on, especially with the anti-Semitism and the union. Obviously, you and your group that you've been leading have been obviously active, but what happened, especially in my school, like, how come they knew what was going on, especially in May? Why haven't more stood up to say this is not okay? And who could do we go to the principal? We have a big sign outside of our elementary school that says we do not tolerate racism. How come we don't have a big sign out there that says we do not tolerate anti-Semitism?
So listen, there's a slew of rules against bullying and harassment and haranguing people and taunting them. And the district wants to take that seriously. I really earnestly believe it. And I think that if you asked these individuals outright, is this behavior acceptable? I think that they would be savvy enough to say it's not acceptable. But when you're dealing with massive bureaucracies and layers of massive bureaucracies, it's baffling for the students. It's baffling for the employees. It's baffling for the adults. I can tell you that I don't make a secret of having filed a complaint against somebody who called me to harangue me for filing a bullying complaint against another teacher. And this individual called me to harass me for having filed a complaint against a fellow union member. Now, that is not only against district policy, it is plainly against district policy. I believe it's against the law. And yet, despite my having filed the paperwork, that paperwork is wending its way very slowly through the district, and they're not even really sure what to do with it. But I believe that all the people up that chain are ethical, moral people. The thing is, when you consider it from the parents or the child's perspective, the child, we've all been told, you see something, say something. You hear something, say something. But say something to whom? And then the person who you tell, what does that person do? It's hard for everyone to know. Didn't we, Dana, I think when we first met, it was shortly after a meeting of parents and teachers who were aghast. This is maybe late May, early June.
No, it was what I was telling you about in April about the ethnic studies. And this is what I opened with. Right. The horrific UTLA anti-Israel, anti-Semitism,
right?
Where we literally were like, WTF? What? We have a big problem here.
Well,
We have a huge problem here.
parents, yes, but the parents wanted to rally against the union. There was going to be a letter writing complaint, a letter writing response to the head of the union, but that person didn't care.
Right.
And continues not to care and continues to flaunt not caring.
Right.
But it wasn't really the right person.
So who's the right person?
The right person is who's handling it now, is the teachers who are working with the administrators and the teachers who are organizing. We have actually a not insubstantial group that is building steam. And Dylan has really, frankly, been essential in helping me figure out how to get the ball rolling with this, because it's hard. It's hard to organize scared people. And that's really what it's been about.
Well, as I said, you know that you have my help and my group's help in whatever we can do. But I mean, we need those teachers to speak up. It is disappointing that we haven't seen more teachers standing up with the parents.
The thing is, Dana, there are teachers that are standing up, but we're trying to get ourselves to lock arms, and we're speaking to parents just as we're having these conversations with you. When teachers aren't speaking up in public, it's because
I know it's scary. I know that you have a lot at stake, but again, like you asked me. So LAUSD passed the anti-Semitism resolution, right? Now, whatever this means about UTLA and the BDS, but like I said, so how come we don't have a big giant sign that says we're against anti-Semitism hanging on all the schools, right? Not that it means anything, because it's just going to be sitting there, but it should be there, right? We have one against racism. Now there should be one saying we're against anti-Semitism, right? So that it's legitimate.
It might be. That might be. Making a note
people
of it.
may walk past it and go whatever, but maybe that should be hanging right next to the one that says Black Lives Matter, right? Jewish lives, anti-Semitism is not okay. Not okay. Because we fought so hard for this stuff this summer. And again, Amy, like I was saying to Dylan and Daniela, as a PR and social impact person, one of my things that I take the hardest is that the media didn't cover it, and even now with the vote, like I sent the press release out that Dylan worked so hard on. And
okay, so listen to the two of you youngins. Back in the day, when I was thinking I would be a journalist and it didn't work out for me, they used to say, if it bleeds, it leads. And they used to say, if it's Jews, it's news. And nothing is news like Jews that are bleeding. So if Jews aren't bleeding,
well, that's what Dylan said. I mean, yeah, the guy like running around the street getting chased by the Palestinian, that obviously gets covered. But I know. But this,
you're right.
Why are you not calling any of these, effing elected officials for comment? Not one. And I have great media contacts, by the way.
Thank God the two of you were on my side, because I would be terrified if I would be terrified if I were some of the people we've been discussing, and I realized the powerhouses that are in the opposition. I think that the storm is gathering on the horizon, but when you consider who we've got organizing, and that it was pulled together from not I can't even say we were at a standstill. We were just gape-jawed with nothing. At June, I mean, it was the worst professional year of people's lives in my field, and to find that this had happened was, I mean, it even took me a few days to sort of pull myself together and realize what had happened, because I was so busy with other things. It's like when you're on a little ship, a little boat in a stormy sea, and there's some schmuck drilling a hole in the bottom of the boat. And these folks are the schmucks drilling the hole in the bottom of the boat. I'll just say schmuck, Dylan, on your program, because it's been like 4 times by now.
I just have to say though, like, there are some amazing Goyim who have been standing up for us, like Dylan. And then I have some amazing Goyim friends who've really come to bat for us, who actually have had more, like, I'm losing my words at this point, but they've said it better than we can.
Listen,
I mean,
powerhouses in the Association of Jewish Educators. I don't feel that it's my position to say who's in and who's not in the tribe. But let me tell you that if not for those powerhouses, for those gracious and generous spirited voices encouraging us and providing their strength and their know-how, and sometimes just a sounding board, I cannot see that any would have happened.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, like, some of the comments that I see from some of my non-Jewish friends, I'm like, wow, you said it better than me. And, you know, I'm Jewish, and like, you really are, you feel more passionate about it than I do, you know? And I'm like, wow, like, you know, they're even more pissed off than I am, you know? So it's amazing.
So I think that part of this has to do with listening for voices that are not in our echo chambers, right? Because right now are the people who are in this BDS movement are all in that echo chamber. They're listening to each other, and that's all that's going on, and they're harming their own young people. There are young people who have committed crimes. I mean, God knows they've done terrible things for which they should be punished. But these are young people who are being stirred up in a way that is going to harm them permanently. And, you know, in a lot of ways, it's game over for these young people. And that's because there isn't any care or concern about what's happening for them. And why does that happen? It's because they are keeping themselves in an echo chamber and only listening to their own voices. I'm convinced that the leadership of my union they're only listening to themselves. So when Jewish people and Israeli people have the blessing of these voices that are not in our echo chamber, when they're sharing that gift with us, then it gives us strength and perspective, right? I mean, I've heard Dylan say to me many times, and I've heard it in our chat, you know, what do you mean he's saying that to you? That's completely outlandish. And then the rest of us are going, oh yeah, I guess it is. And so we're really, Dana, I just really am so with you. I just really feel that we're so fortunate to have those voices, not just repeating back to us everything that we already say around the Shabbat table, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really grateful. And I'm really looking forward to continuing to work with both of you. I want you to know that the teachers who are with us are positioning themselves right now to make sure that we are sitting one way or another in every room. And I think that childish behavior will flee, because it will be really embarrassing for people to have some of their childish behavior played back for them in years to come. And I see some of it coming. and I realized how embarrassed the person was who was reported to her principal and her principal's principal and her principal's principal, and the rabbis in the community. She was really embarrassed. And I'm not sure if she was, what do you think that was about? What do you think it's about that somebody can feel embarrassed in front of 6 people, but not have been embarrassed in front of 5,800 making those comments? I don't even understand that, but it's true. And I think that I think that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to make sure that they're not saying these foolish things because of the risk of somebody saying what you're saying and doing is not only immoral, it is unprincipled. It is against the ethics of your position, and it may possibly be against the law. And I think that having that thrown up to them, and the fact that it will live on indefinitely on the interwebs, I think that is potentially very embarrassing for people. And yeah. If I have anything to say with it, I say about it every time somebody searches some of these names. This is going to be the first thing that comes up.
I have to say that, I don't know how much time we have, Dylan, but one thing that I actually have observed throughout this pandemic is that, there's a reason why our organs, I'm writing I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I'm a writer also. And I started writing this op-ed or opinion piece. And I actually started writing it when I was under laughing gas at the dentist's office. But I was thinking, does a dentist like looking at my nose? And then I'm okay. Anyway, so
go on. But, I want to learn more.
Yeah.
Well, you'll read it when I get my piece
question
published.
I need to write down.
You'll read it when I get my piece published. But basically, there's a reason why. I mean, doctors have to look up our nose or butt, whatever. Do they like doing it? No, but they do it because they're helping us, right? But our organs are not really pretty. They're inside of us, right? For a reason. They're not, our exteriors are the pretty part that we're all looking at. But this pandemic has basically ripped open our ugly sides, right? So that ugly side is giving us the permission to be really ugly. The ugly side, to be racist, to be anti-Semitic, to be really selfish, to be really, you know what I'm saying? So I think this, people are just really just allowed to, everything's coming out, to be shitty, to be a racist, to be a bigot, anti-Semitic, all these things that were just not there before. I don't know. Am I making sense? Anyway, it's all going to be in my piece. So hopefully I get it published. But, I feel like all this stuff is coming out that was covered before.
But you know what? So I to add an optimistic spin on that, I don't see that in the kids.
No.
I don't see that happening in young people.
You're right.
And it surprised me. I wasn't sure what was going to happen.
You're right. So I'll put a sentence in there, but I don't see it in the kids.
Yeah. But the thing is, the young people seem to be much more conscientious. And I will tell you, as long as I'm eating up your airtime because I showed up late. Sorry about that. But what I am noticing is there are a lot of teachers who are saying the students are so polite. It's a little bit creepy.
They're polite in school, not when they come home.
Yes. So they save up all that emotion for home. Yeah. That's all part of our devious plan, Dana.
Right.
So I would like to make 2 quick comments, and maybe it'll close us out. Number one, I really do think, and Amy, you and I have spoken about this kind of offline about the need for the need to really create a Jewish student, and then I pushed back and said, prefer to focus on Israeli students. Some sort of, to me, it's almost like a civil rights movement for students. And I think that the BDS movement, which by the way has its roots, this isn't new. This is such an old hatred repackaged in today's, trimmings.
Yep.
And the complex realities of the Middle East facilitate the deception.
Have you seen the?
So
sorry to interrupt, Dylan.
No,
have you seen your chats, Amy, on your post? Someone was commenting about stop the BDS stuff.
Did someone say that?
Yeah.
I have some very dedicated commentators.
No, but these are I think, right? These are people who are against us, I think.
Yeah, there's some there, yeah.
I'm still reading them. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, so they really mean it. Stop teaching.
Well, and so that's my point, by the way, right, Amy or Dana? You said,
they're like stop it. Yeah, they're like stop BDS.
Because you know what? Here's my thing, and I say this, and we're broadcasting, and it's being recorded and everything. So I say it that it's for the American Jewish community, it's very easy to choose to have a certain relationship with Israel. I shouldn't say very easy. There can be a choice, right? You can choose the relationship that you have with the state of Israel. So whether you choose to be an American Jew who is like a diehard AIPACer or a Jewish Voice for Peace type advocate, which those two advocate for the exact opposite things. You can make that choice, but for an Israeli, that identity is your identity forever. It's in your blood, literally. And so, to me, the Israeli student is at greater risk because the American Jewish student, maybe it doesn't have an accent, maybe isn't a Jew of color or whatever. Whereas, by the way, fact, most Jews in Israel are Jews of color.
Right.
There we go. Amy, it's like the Blair's Witch Project over there.
I know. Sorry.
That's
no, I just don't want. We're painting, so I just don't want.
Now we can see your beautiful bookshelf. All right, and like the Mickey Mouse thing behind you there, it's cool.
And I want to point out that I'm waiting in case I ever get reviewed by the Rate My Room people. I've got my pineapple ready.
Rate Your Room. All right.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Good. So anyway, I think Israeli students are very much at risk. But bottom line, I think that what's good for Israeli students is good for Jewish students too. I think I could be wrong about that. We can think about it, but that's where my brain is now. Because Israeli students have multiple vectors of discrimination targeted at them, not just anti-Semitism based in race or ethnicity or religion, but also national origin discrimination, which and anti-immigrant bias, by the way. And those two things can completely provide a environment that is unlike anything that an American Jewish student would experience. I think. I don't know, but that's one thought I
agree, but it also has to do with a certain entitlement. It's like, well, if you're a Jew and you're safe in America, it's like if you, and then you feel entitled to criticize Israel. It's like saying, I'm fine, so screw you.
Yeah, and by the way, all too often, and I'm sorry to say this. I don't think I've ever said this on the air, but I honestly think all too often some of our American Jewish brothers and sisters are ready to use Israel as a card to easily give away. Or let's throw Israel under the bus. We're willing to sacrifice Israel as long as you don't come for what is important to the American Jewish community. I've seen it. I've seen it happen. First of all, in practical, real world debates. I saw it happen during the ethnic studies debate 2 years ago. I saw it happen in other places, and I think that's disappointing. And luckily, there were some great people and some important organizations that stood up for the and legislators too, by the way, that stood up for Israel in the ethnic studies curriculum. And we got all the BDS stuff removed. So I do think we're in kind of the first thing I want to say is I think we're in a civil rights era, a new civil rights era for Jews and Israelis in America. And BDS is really driving that environment. The other thing I don't know if you guys want to comment on that, because the other thing I'm going to say is more tachlis, as we say in Hebrew. Tachlis.
Tachlis. Mamish.
Tachlis.
Mamish tachlis. I think that it is part of, I think it's part and parcel of allowing other people to drive our bus over a cliff. Instead of us driving ourselves, we're sort of, allowing ourselves to be driven by fear. And it has to do whether you're
exactly.
mission driven or fear driven. And those are very different perspectives. And
mission driven.
Yes, me too. I want to wear the t-shirt and get the square.
I think it's also interesting though, like, like when I hear Israelis, obviously I recognize the accent. So I'll be like, are you Israeli? And sometimes they're like, yeah. Like they hesitate because they don't know what I am, and if they're going to get attacked, or if I'm going to spit in their face, or, if I'm going to beat them up. And I'm like, my mother's Israeli. I'm half Israeli, like I recognize her accent, so it's like, sometimes they don't know what's coming to them, like, so that's, I don't know if that's ever happened. Like if you've encountered that, like when you meet an Israeli, if they react like that.
Well, imagine how it is then for the kids.
Exactly.
They're just kids.
Exactly.
They're just
kids,
and they are so dependent. We don't invite them to go to school. They didn't pick this class out of multiple choices. This is where they have to go.
Right. And like my kids obviously are, they're quarter Israeli, right? They don't have an accent or anything, but I keep saying to them, your grandmother is Israeli. You should identify as Israeli. Your grandparents helped pioneer the state of Israel. Be proud of that. But they're not going to a Jewish day school. They're going to LAUSD public school. So, if somebody says to them, are you Israeli? I want them to say, yeah, I'm proud of that. Or that's my heritage, They should be proud to walk and say, yes. My mother went to the Israeli. I mean, my 9-year-old just wrote a paper for his class and said, my grandmother is Israeli. She served in the Israeli army, and I wanted him to be proud to say that to his teacher, so yeah. But if they don't feel safe saying that, that's a tragedy to me.
Well,
yeah, and sorry, Amy, go ahead.
No, it's not only a tragedy; it's against policy and law. So,
right.
But kids can be easily scared and manipulated, and that's why there are all these laws to protect them. And your child is really lucky to have so much strength coming from a mom who is determined to help him feel, pride is not even the right word, like dignity and self-respect, just on the merit of being himself and being descended from people who have done brave and amazing things, including his mom. So, this is what a responsible thing is to be educating children with. That whatever, where, I have not yet met the child who chose where to be born. I have not yet met the student who picks where he lives or what his parents' jobs are or where they come from or what language is spoken at home. But all these people deserve to be treated with dignity, including the teachers. So I am totally with you. I back you 100%. I think it's wonderful what you're doing.
So I wanted to do my talkless thing real quick. So the first thing I wanted to show you guys, and then I'll let you go because I know it's super late and Amy has another meeting with me this week.
Oh yeah.
8 o'clock that way. It's next. It's Thursday. It's okay.
Okay.
So first of all, I just wanted to pull up. That's okay. That's okay. I just wanted to pull up just real quick the. This is the resolution that was passed by LAUSD, and one right. So which is great. There's some things that could be improved, but whatever. The thing I just thought about while we were talking was this, by the way.
Yeah, we're blowing through that. That is not. I realize that we're recording for your program, but I can tell you that the exigencies of the health crisis.
Has it been discussed though? I mean, do you know?
Oh yeah. So because there are two parts of this. Number one is to develop a curricular plan, and which I was trying to do with a couple of other people in the union, including Greg Sokovitz.
Great.
But so that's one component that we are trying to pull together. And the other thing is to report back to the board within 90 days with an update, but it's an update on the efforts to develop the plan. So we are not any of us sure exactly what form that is going to take. So we're working on it.
Well, and I only thought about this because of what Dana said about, there should be a banner on every school that says, what was it? Antisemitism is not is.
I don't, Dana, I don't think that's. I think that's a good idea. Not just having to do with anti-Jewish sentiment. And I'm trying to, for other reasons that we can discuss some other time, I want to move away from the term anti-Semitism because I think
I agree. It's clinical.
Well, I could take a picture of what is posted on outside my elementary school and show it to you how it says, what does it say? We don't tolerate
racism. We don't tolerate bullying. We don't, I don't think that's a bad idea. The question is how to go about it, but having the idea is the first step in that direction. And I'm sorry, Dylan, go ahead.
I was going to say, and I think that this resolution kind of gives us the beginning of a blueprint too. I think for some progress we could make on that front. I think. I'm not sure.
It used to be that most schools had a painted mural, Dana. But it turns out that painted murals get vandalized. And we, at my school, we lost one recently that had been there for a long time. But every school I've worked in has had a mural that included people from a variety of ethnicities and included, a student, Israeli flags and a student in a kippah. Every school that I've worked in had that. Though maybe on the interior of the building might be better than having it outside where vandals can get to it. Not because they're especially.
This thing is not like, this thing is like a vinyl thing. You know what I mean?
But I think that's a really good idea. I think that visual representation is important, and I would be happy to work on something having to do with that.
And you know what, by the way, guys, I want to say too that and maybe this is my fault. This is a little bit my fault. I need to do a better job of communicating with you guys and with others. There are concerted efforts in many different arenas to marginalize Jews in America, including in Los Angeles. I mean, Los Angeles is not the worst, but it's happening. And I'll tell you, I mean, we've got the situation on our college and public school campuses. Dana, you earlier, we were talking about, not in this podcast, but earlier today, we were talking about redistricting. There's redistricting happening in LA City, and in other parts of it's happening all over the country. But what we're seeing in LA City is an effort to redistrict out and separate the Jewish community, to basically just decimate the Jewish communities and slice and dice Jews in LA, both in the Valley and in the city. And I think that is endemic of a serious root problem. And I think that what automatically comes to mind, and I hate to bring this up, is what Randy Weingarten said about Jews now being part of the ownership class.
Yeah.
And there's this perception, right? And I think they were speaking to Dana. I mean, I thought that really they were almost, I don't know if Randy was talking about CSU specifically. I felt like she was. I felt like she was. And at the rate, if she wasn't, CMC certainly was. The head of the UTLA union was referencing you guys. Middle Eastern last names.
Yes.
What if we said, I mean, like, what if we said, like, oh, I'm hearing complaints from, Hispanic last names. I mean, could you imagine the uproar?
I would have made a donation to almost anything to the fly on the wall of some of these rooms, because I know that there is somebody who's been working representing Jewish issues for a long time in the power arenas, and it was comical. I mean, it was almost slapstick that we would have to keep coming up with new non-conventional names for Jews, Jewish surnames to get into meetings in our own union.
Right.
No, those were some of the, those were some of the classic quotes from the past 18 months. Yeah.
Middle Eastern last names, right?
What?
Middle Eastern last names is what she said, right?
White. So Cecily Meyer, CMC's white, wealthy Middle Eastern parents was hers. And so white, wealthy can mean usually what? Jews, right? Jews, and Middle Eastern is Persians.
But I think that Armenian parents took it to mean them too.
Right. Okay. But those groups, and then Randy Weingarten, it's like, what the hell was that? She literally said Jews are the oppressive class.
And she's Jewish, by the way.
Right.
Isn't she Jewish?
She's Jewish and she's married to a rabbi.
No way.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It's a she's married to a rabbi.
Yeah.
It's not like he's an Orthodox rabbi.
No, it's not a he.
Well,
it's a she.
In favor of Jews, you would think.
Dylan, it's not a he. She's a she rabbi.
I wanted you to say that, not me. All right. So the other thing, the last thing I want to show you guys is, let me see. Hold on. Let's do this, and then we'll go. All right.
I'm always behind on the gossip. Okay.
Huh? What gossip?
I still think that you would expect a.
You would. I think you would. I don't care if it's a man or a woman, the rabbi that she's married to. Who cares? By the way, especially a woman rabbi should be, All right. So, my rabbi is a woman rabbi. By the way, I will say that for not being Jewish.
No, that's fine that she's a woman rabbi. I'm just telling you that,
Yeah. No. I know what you're saying. I wasn't accusing you of anything. So I wanted to show you guys this. Have we spoken about this at all?
No.
By the way, this commission on the state of hate.
No, this but I want to be in on it.
Would you like? Absolutely. I think we should. So
Great. Hello.
This is my.
Oh, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm here. So this is a bill that I worked on with Assemblymember Bloom.
Commission on the State of Hate. It's great title. Oh.
What are you laughing at my name? I came up with that name,
No, it's great. It's very catchy.
It rhymes.
The problem with State of Hate, it makes it sound like California is a state of hate. Right? Is that what you thought? Is that what you were commenting on, Dana?
No, I'm saying it's very catchy. It's like, yeah, Commission on the State of Hate.
It's like the status of hate, the state of hate.
Yeah.
Okay. Listen, this is my baby. So you're basically, don't tell me my baby's ugly. So
I'm not saying that.
It's beautiful.
thank you. So this is now sitting on.
I wonder if we still have
Gavin-
people on this podcast. Are there still people here, or are we just like talking
No,
to
it's
ourselves?
just
Okay,
us right now.
okay, it's nice to have a conversation.
It'll be recorded. It'll be on the podcast. It'll be preserved forever. So and this is our first one as being Israeli, by the way. So it'll be good. But anyway, this bill, I just want to show you guys real quick. So this bill would establish the Commission on the State of Hate in state government. The bill will provide for the appointment of 9 members appointed by the governor, the Speaker of the Assembly, and the Senate Committee on Rules as provided. The bill would prescribe the goals of the commission, which will include, among other things, providing the governor and state agencies policy recommendations to promote intersocial education designed to foster mutual respect and understanding among California's diverse population. I think that the topic that we discussed tonight should be an issue that's brought up in this commission. Yay or nay?
Yay.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. The bill would require the commission to host and coordinate a minimum of 4 in-person virtual community forums open to the public on the state of hate per year. The bill would require the commission to seek to protect civil liberties in accordance with okay, blah, blah, blah. All right. So what is that noise, Amy? So is that Amy or Dana? I think it's Amy.
I just lost sound. I'll cry a minute.
Amy!
Oh, I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Oh, you can't hear me? All right. Can you really not hear me? Okay. So anyway, this is a great commission. It's on the governor's desk. We hope Governor Newsom will sign it. He has 5 days to sign it. But I really think that this is a topic that we should talk about in our commission. And with that, let's close.
Okay. I think that's it. I think that's great.
Yeah. So I think that, and Amy, I think representing teachers and teachers' issues, you can't hear me right now, can you? I think you should be on the commission. So we're gonna recruit you to be on the commission, and you don't know it because you can't hear us because you lost sound. That's what that noise was. We can hear her. We can hear your dog. All right. Dana, thank you so much. Since you can hear me.
Dylan, a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
Let's do it again.
Let's do it. Amy, you can't hear us, but thank you.
All right.
All right.
We'll do it later, guys. I'll talk
Good
to
night,
you.
y'all.
Night, night. Lila talk.